Yeah,
let's make it happen.
Make it happen, yeah, because I think you would do extremely well over there. You look at even some artists like Chris Stelling. And,
oh my God, he goes over there twice a year.
Will Daly, guys like that.
Yep.
That here they have a profile, but they're nowhere near from what it seems like the outside looking in. Over there, they have a much higher profile. Even bands like the Jayhawks and other.
God, I love that band.
Which, yeah, probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite band, to be honest with you. But they, here you'll see them at the Paradise. It won't be full. Paradise in Boston or something like that. I've seen Loris and Olsen solo, similar crowds to anybody, but over there, apparently they're playing in much larger venues, much more adoring fan base. So there's something about Europe that we could maybe apply here when dealing with music.
Right. But there's this place that I'm playing up in Maine this coming weekend, and they have the performers, if they're traveling from a long ways, they have you do 2 nights to make it worth your while. You know what I mean? But it's so crazy. I remember the first night I rolled up there. I went up there with my band because they were sending us a message for like a year. Can you guys make? And it was just so hard to get my band in the car at the same time to like make it a journey like that. Sort of like to do this weekend stint. And we did it. We rolled up in the afternoon. They said we're unloading our equipment. They're like, "You boys hungry?" We're like, "Sure, all right." And they go, "Yeah, we'll make you something on the house." So they made us some food, and then the deal there was you play a 3-hour set. So we played our, a couple hours, and then they go, "Okay, we're gonna feed you now." And I'm like, "Oh, we get fed twice. Wow, that's incredible."
That's incredible. Yeah.
So they fed us again, and then and then we finished our set, and then they said to us, "Oh, there's a camp on a lake down the way, and they want to know if you guys would play another set. And we'll pay you a little more, and we'll feed you again." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" It fed us 3 times in one day, and then they put us up in this cabin on a lake, and they gave us this giant box of food, like milk, bacon, eggs, orange juice, cheese, coffee, like muffins, like all bagels, all this stuff in this giant box. And they're like, this will be good for the weekend, and if you need more food, just come to the restaurant and we'll cook you something up. So it's like all weekend long. And at the end I was like, and they put us up, and it was like, wow, this was such an incredible experience.
Right.
And it's like, that's what I'm trying to find this year, is more special spots like that aren't necessarily in big cities. I've been sort of like, I love going to New York City. I don't love playing there. Mm-hmm. I always go to my favorite new town, Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Yeah, play Saint awesome. Or whatever, the bowling, Asbury Lanes.
Right.
Great spots there.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's killer. Got the Axel Seabirds down there.
Love
great band.
Those boys.
Great friends, great band.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, and what's cool about, I think now there's a peer group that sort of emerged. A lot of people have a lot to do with it, but we can kind of look at each other, and it helps make that list a little easier to narrow down. Like, oh, okay, well, the Seabirds and Dan Blakeslee and, I don't know, Christopher Paul Stelling are playing X venue. So, yeah, I'll send him an email. You know what I mean? That helps. Right. That is a really positive thing, mapping it out in a sense. But you're right that there are few places that put you up. And when it does happen and really treat you well, there's a place in Danbury that we often play, Danbury, Connecticut.
Cool.
And it's actually more my friend who books the show and does sound, and his parents, they put the band up, they feed you, place to stay.
That's awesome.
You get paid for the show, you get fed at the venue, there's someone doing sound for you. I used to take the train up from Brooklyn to do this gig.
Right.
My buddy's dad would pick me up the train, take me to the show, you'd get there, the whole. So it's like there are people out there who are so passionate, they have that passion, they understand that they need to be somewhat responsible for the health and well-being of the artist in order for the entire thing to work, Right. But then guess what? You get better performers, you get better attitudes from the performers, and then the crowd recognizes that, and you build something. You're right about those secondary markets like Newport. Come on. I grew up in Rhode Island, and I never took Newport seriously as a music town.
Right.
Never. I thought it was To me, it was sort of just like a casino-esque type of environment. You know what I mean? It really had no purpose besides the folk festival for me, or the rhythm and blues festival.
And
jazz
now there's all these pockets of places going on to play.
It's huge. It's a great. I love it there.
It's awesome.
What an awesome town. And you get Dave Pasfume. He would put
Oh
people
my
up.
God.
He'd make sure you got food.
That dude, solid human being.
Solid human being.
Dave Pasfume.
Tweed Leisure. And that's in Newport. That's not even in Providence. Never mind Boston and New York. So if you do the Google map, click out, the zoom out, and you're flying in from Australia, tour the U.S., you might say, why not go hit Newport and
I
Danbury?
can't get booked in Boston. Let's go to Newport.
Yeah, hit Danbury, Newport, and East Hampton, Mass, or Amherst, or something like that.
Right.
And you might actually build a fan base out of that.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
Yep.
What's your favorite outside of New England? Because you're in New England, you're known as I wouldn't hesitate to say you're one of the, let's say, most well-known of the singer-songwriters of the New England singer-songwriters.
You're very kind, Bill.
And the most well-respected, I think, as well. I really do think so.
Oh, man, you're sweet.
I mean, when you think about the scene here in New England is so bizarre because it's so spread out among so many different cities. It's kind of hard to pinpoint what
but
the
everyone
center
sort
is.
of knows what's going on in the different communities. It's like, I hear or I see glimpses or hear things about, these like acts like in, like Vermont or like, upstate Maine or New Hampshire that are making noise. And it's like, and then when they come to town, I'm like, oh my God, it's them. That's that band I keep hearing about, or that actor or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. But when you go outside of New England, what's your experience like? Do you have a pocket where you've kind of built a fan base that's similar to New England?
It's getting there. It's kind of like, there's a big gap between certain like towns. Like in this area, I can generally play like most New England and, find spots in between like here and like Burlington, Vermont.
Yeah.
And here being Providence.
Right.
And, but then when you go down south, it's like, okay, Baltimore, I can get a show in. That was my old art school town.
That's right. Yeah.
But then, like, all the way down to like North Carolina, it's like that big pocket of like Virginia, West Virginia. I'm like, where do I play? I don't know anyone around here. I keep writing to all these places, and they're like, oh yeah, we're booked right now. Maybe get in touch with us in the future. I'm like, okay, so there's some hopefuls,
right?
But I still haven't really landed anything, and people keep talking about all these different venues. They're like, oh my God, you'd be perfect there. I'm like, they won't give me the time of day. Can you send them a message?
Right.
And every once in a while that happens. So then I get in the door, and then, and then I'm playing there, for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
But it's just like trying to find those right venues that are right for my sound. And I've been doing this big thing on this tour. The upcoming tour is like, okay, I started booking like in December, and normally I would like quickly investigate venues or whatever to find out, whether or not I fit and if they, book singer-songwriter or whatever. But I've been going more deep into detail, really investigating the singer-songwriters that are playing to see if it's even the right vibe for me, let alone for the venue to have me. So if I don't feel like it's the right vibe and I go online, I look at images, I look at the space, I see how many TVs in the room. If there are none, I go, okay, I'm gonna rent them. Yep. If there's one or two, it's okay. But if it's like, all TVs and it's like they have like Budweiser logos everywhere.
Yeah, red flag
like
goes
a
up.
sports venue. That's not going to work for me. It may work for someone else, and that's fine. But it's just not what I'm looking for. I like the sort of like outsider art bohemian weirdo paradise hangouts.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I like. It's like every once in a while I'll play a room that's pretty. Is like a performance space. It doesn't have much vibe to it. And it's like, I like it, but I would rather play the Bohemian Den.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. Those are
like,
the best
I
shows.
just get so much out of it.
Yeah. Well, anyone who goes there is most likely interested in what you
or
have
they're
to,
open-minded
you're doing.
to whatever.
At least, or somewhat
You know what I
interested.
mean?
Right.
It's like me. It's like I grew up on my dad as a jazz musician, and then he played in a country band. Then my brother introduced me to hip hop when I was in 5th grade. I was a little break dancer.
Yeah.
And then he introduced me to punk rock in 7th grade. So it's like I'm all over the map, and when I go out to see music, I'm so open-minded to anything pretty much except plastic country.
Yeah.
And gangster rap.
Yeah.
I like other hip hop if it's like poetic or it has some sort of meaning or it's funny or like wordplay kind of stuff that like gets me going.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
But
huge difference there. No question. That's interesting. You're going South by Southwest this year. What's your?
I am.
That wasn't
that wasn't. Oh man, you probably know my feeling on that. That wasn't my initial like reason for booking a tour. Like the last few times I went to South by Southwest, it was to go to South by Southwest. That was the whole reason for booking the tour. You know, from here to Charleston, South Carolina, to through New Orleans to Texas and Iowa and back. But this time around, I'm like, man, I didn't get to tour on the West Coast for my most recent album, The Alley Walker. So it's like, man, I could either fly out there and mail my things, rent a car, or I could be in my little Honda Civic cruising across the United States of America, checking out this the countryside. And man, last time I did it, I was in such a dream state. From like, I had only seen the Grand Canyon, Joshua Tree, the Redwood Forest, and National Geographic. It's very different when you are in it.
I can imagine. I've never seen any of those. So
God, it is so like it taps into like every chakra, every fiber of your being. Like you are just enthralled. You are just completely taken by everything that surrounds you, and you forget about life. It's really a remarkable thing. I had a few revelations out there in the desert.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Howling naked at the moon at 3 a.m. because it was like 110 degrees in my tent. I'm like, man, I got to get these clothes off. And then I got my clothes off looking out for scorpions and snakes. And I'm like, I'm naked in the desert.
There Woo! Stuff dreams are made of.
Right. But for South by Southwest, it's like the first couple years I did it, it was amazing. Like I felt like people were really attentive. I was actually put on some really good shows with like some good performers like
I remember you play
Deer
like the
Tick and
Dawes
Joe
guys
Fletcher and Dawes
yeah.
and like it was like that was the first show I had down there. I'm like, is it always gonna be this amazing?
Right.
No. And then things just started getting weird. It started getting over like taken with just like people like not even like they're just walking around like they're like the best thing in the world, like handing out their little little promos, like with their entourage and things like that, and not listening to anyone else. And it's like not everyone's like that, because I remember the first couple of years I stood there, I was on 6th Street, which is not my favorite street, but it's
shot bar street,
right, exactly. There's like bars playing every genre of music cranked up as loud as they can to compete with each other. And if you're walking in the center of the street, it's like it's just this big like heap of noise, which is kind of cool. But I stood in the middle of the street and I was looking at like the groups of like the singer-songwriter hanging out playing on the corner, the like avant-garde band playing with their keyboard like in the middle of the street, like doing an art performance, and then the hip-hop guy like doing his thing over there, and I was standing there, I'm like, man, we are all here for one reason, because music, it's like this, it's such a powerful thing.